In Chapter 51, during Zoro's fight against Mihawk, after he announced his name, Mihawk stated that he would remember Zoro's name and he would honor him by sending him to his death with this quote-unquote Black Blade. It's amazing how Oda can leave little seeds of information in the past and how those seeds can bud and bloom in the future. Oda's foreshadowing, we all know, knows no bounds. So now in Act 2 of Wano, we find out more details of the Black Blades from Yukimaru/Onimaru, and how Ryuma created his Black Blade through his history of battles against enemies from overseas that would try stealing the abundant gold that was in Wano at that time. This was one of the crowning achievements of Ryuma, and Mihawk also wields a Black Blade. It is unclear if Mihawk was the one to make Yoru a Black Blade, but he wields the Black Blade nonetheless. Yet other powerful people that use swords in the world of One Piece, people like Fujitora, people like Shiryu of the Rain, people like Shanks and Rayleigh, not even Roger no Den, had Black Blades. Only Mihawk, the current world's strongest swordsman, and Ryuma, the god of the blade of the past, wielded Black Blades as far as we know in the series and the history of One Piece. So it is only fitting, I think, that Zoro will inevitably achieve a Black Blade. Now, outside of the Nekotetsu in Wano Country thus far, Zoro achieving a Black Blade for me has been the second biggest thing. The need eye is right there and he should get that at some point, obviously. But the next thing after that was absolutely the Black Blades. For me, the Black Blade is probably the most important sign for Zoro's path to defeating Mihawk. If he can achieve a Black Blade before defeating Mihawk, that is a big sign that Zoro is ready for Mihawk. So the question for this video is, number one, will Zoro achieve the legendary Black Blade in Wano? And number two, how do you even achieve a Black Blade? Now that being said, if you do support your boy on, let's say, the YouTube videos, on, let's say, twitch.tv, on DLive, it would be awesome as all hell for you to rate the video, thumbs up or thumbs down, up to you, I'm not biased, thumbs up or thumbs down, subscribe, and of course, click on the bell for notifications when a video is uploaded and posted. At least, I think it's like a week's time, because YouTube is so bleh with your notifications, so it's better than nothing, so you should still do it nonetheless. But if not, you can follow me on Discord, follow me on Twitter, where I do post regular updates about what I'm doing. And there'll be timestamps in the box below to the sections of this video, and of course, a brief word from our sponsors. Now the sponsor for today's video is a sponsor that I've been using time and time again because I like to venture off into the dark, dangerous spots of the web, and I need protection when I do. And my protection has always been Surfshark VPN. November is long gone, and I'm pretty sure that some of you guys have forgotten how dangerous it can be, because when November was gone, you were released. Freedom! Oh yeah! Freedom was beset upon you, and you guys explored into the dark parts of the web, but you forgot that you need to have protection when you're venturing off. I commend you, lads, for having your swords unsheathed, ready to tackle any challenge. However, you need a backup person. You need a backup man. And that backup man, Surfshark VPN, is it. There's the clean web feature. Any malware or viruses that come your way, the clean web feature can take care of that, among many other features that it has to offer. Not only is this VPN available on all your devices across the spectrum, whether it's Linux, whether it's Windows, whether it's Android, doesn't matter, but also this VPN is located outside of the Five Eyes. Very important. Because Surfshark VPN is located outside of the Five Eyes, it has a deeper level of security that other VPNs just can't match. And then on top of that, there are some videos that I myself do have region blocked. Well, guess what? Those region-gated materials you can easily get access to, not only my videos, but also Netflix and also Disney Plus, by using the Surfshark VPN, putting in the region that you want to get access to, and with a few easy steps, you are now watching that region-gated content. Very important. Check in the description box down below for a holiday special for the rest of this month for Surfshark VPN. Not only will you be getting 4 months free, but also 84% off by using code COLE. Very important. You use code COLE. Once again, 84% off and 4 months free on your purchase of Surfshark VPN. So on that note, let us get on to the video at hand. Now the first question we must ask ourselves is, before even when, what? What is a Black Blade? In chapter 779, after Zoro defeats Pika, Mihawk talks about how Armored Haki can turn every sword into a Black Blade. Then in chapter 955, Tengama explains that Enma has not yet turned into a Black Blade, and depending on Zoro, its rank might raise. This means to me that a true Black Blade is simply a blade that has leveled up in rank, therefore improved resilience, sharpness, and other features. Haki can, in a way, mimic these effects, but only temporarily. Of course, it depends on the Haki user and the base grade of the sword, whether it's going to be a Wazemono, a Ryo Wazemono, an O Wazemono, or a Saijo Wazemono, so of course that matters as well. And obviously, Haki techniques like Ryo or Haki effects, like, let's say, hurting Logias, still apply in this case. But after Zoro defeated Pika, the first thing he did was check his swords to see the conditions of his sword. And he was pleased to see that there were no chips, there were no scratches on the sword. Haki added to his sword prevented any damage to his blades after cutting Pika. And of course, the higher the grade of the sword, the less likely the sword is to get damaged because it has higher durability. That's why Zoro states in chapter 473 during the Oars Luffy fight, the characteristic of the Black Blade, it's its hardness. And how when we look at, let's say, a non-Black Blade Saijo Wazemono, a supreme grade, in this case Whitebeard's Murokuma Giri, at no point in time during Marineford War did Whitebeard's blade falter, give way, or any of that sort during the entire battle. So once again, the main gist of a true Black Blade is that the Black Blade itself has leveled up in rank. So in the case of, let's say, Ryuma, his sword was a Ryo Wazemono, and then once it became a Black Blade, it became an O Wazemono, a great grade blade. However, the flip side applies here too. And the flip side is true Black Blades themselves and by themselves probably do not exude Haki innately, meaning that the Black Blade itself cannot, let's say, damage a Logia. For example, when Zoro shell-shocked Monet into oblivion, when he cut her in half on Punk Hazard, he was able to not damage her because he put no Haki into that sword swing. But the sword that he used to cut Monet in half was Shusui, the Black Blade. So based on that information, the Black Blades themselves do not exude Haki. Therefore, there is a difference between a Black Blade and a true Black Blade. So for the remainder of this video, instead of saying Black Blades, I'm gonna say true Black Blades, or TBBs for short. It's gonna sound weird, but just for the time being, roll with it. TBBs.
Tiggo bitties.
Now, when will Zoro achieve a TBB is real up in the air, because there's only 2 swordsmen in the history of One Piece, both in lore and in real time, that have achieved a true Black Blade. Mihawk and Ryuma. That's it. Based on that, it seems very unlikely that Zoro will achieve a TBB in Wano. Zoro, in theory, would have to reach those same heights in order to actually have a true Black Blade. However, his situation is different than Mihawk's and Ryuma's because he has 3 swords. So it could be the case where Zoro, let's say, achieves a TBB in Wano, and then in the following arcs before Mihawk, he makes all of his swords TBBs. So let's say in Wano Country could be Enma or Warichimonji, one of those 2. And then let's say the next arc, the next sword. And the arc after, the next sword. Or maybe let's say right before Mihawk, he achieves the final Black Blade. Now, it could be the case where for the entire series of One Piece, Zoro only achieves 1 Black Blade. Oh. Woo! I felt that. You felt that too? Yeah, I felt that too. There was some Zoro fanboy rage right there.
Are you feeling it now?
Zoro fanboys.
My spidey senses were tingling pretty hard right there.
My spidey senses are tingling.
Listen, relax, Zoro fanboys, okay? Relax. Not a big deal. I'm just saying the possibility is there. Yes, it could be where for the entire series of One Piece, Zoro only achieves 1 TBB. The TBBs are supposed to be extra super mythical, oh my god, rare. Like think of a very expensive, like 20 plus K Charizard.
And then, oh, what the no!
Is it likely? No, because I would say based on Tenguyama's words about Enma, Zoro probably make Enma into a Black Blade too. And I doubt that he's only Black Blade, because, you know, Wado exists, duh. But it's still a possibility, okay? Zoro just having 2 TBBs in, let's say, Wado and Enma would be kind of weird, so he has to have probably 3 TBBs. And it can either be, let's say, the Sandai, or hopefully in the future, the Nyakitetsu. But what I am confident in, when it comes to when, is I don't think it's gonna be after Zoro defeats Mihawk. I'm very confident in that one. Like, at the most, Zoro will achieve at least 1 TBB or all TBBs during the fight against Mihawk. So let's say, for example, at the beginning of that fight, Zoro is slightly weaker against Mihawk. And then as the fight progresses forward, Zoro gets stronger and stronger during that fight. And then let's say last second, very dire moment, Zoro's life is on the line. He goes to some crazy inner world, like on some Naruto Kurama stuff. And then he awakens all 3 of his swords as true Black Blades. Or at least one of the swords, let's say Wado, as a true Black Blade. And in this case, he edges out Mihawk in that final moment, and then he beats Mihawk. So at the end of the damn day, I would argue that at least one of his swords, probably all 3 of his swords, will be Black Blades right before the final war. Because Zoro should go into that final war, I think, as the world's strongest swordsman. Unless Mihawk isn't defeated until that arc, that final war, where things kind of get tricky from there, so let's just move on from that one. Now, the big boy here. How do you achieve a Black Blade? The answer is actually very obvious. All you gotta do is pour in your haki into your sword for 3 days and 3 nights, and that's it.
Really?
Done. That's how you achieve a Black Blade. We solved the big mystery. I'm gonna see y'all later. Take care. Have a nice night.
No!
No! Of course not. Of course not. There is no way it's that simple. I hope, Oda, it is no. So let's start it off like this, okay? There are 3 main possibilities I'd argue when it comes to how Zoro could achieve a Black Blade. I could be wrong, fair enough, fine, but here are my main 3. There is a concept in the series where objects can consume devil fruits. Dr. Vegapunk made this possible, and objects, because of devil fruits, have a certain degree of life to them. If devil fruit objects can exist, which they do, what about haki objects? That sounds kind of crazy. But when Yukimaru, when he talks about Ryuma and how he made Shusui into a TBB, depending on the translation that you read or that you are aware of, Scanlation or Viz translation, you could read it as it was after all of his battles. After all of Ryuma's battles, only then did Meito Shusui become a Black Blade. And also, in the Wanted one-shot monsters, Ryuma's sword isn't black. Now, granted, that was years ago, and I'm not sure if Oda had the concept of Black Blades back then. But nonetheless, Ryuma is a historical figure in the world of One Piece. And what we see in the Wanted one-shot monsters is Ryuma in like the prime of his life. We don't see Ryuma towards the end of his life. Now, if you want to use the anime for reference, in the anime, we do see Ryuma when Yukimaru is talking about Ryuma, and we see him cut the dragon's head off in the anime. And if you compare the anime scene to the Wanted monster scene of Ryuma cutting the dragon's head off, in the anime, Shusui is a Black Blade. But again, in the Wanted one-shot, it's not. The notion here is when Ryuma died, I believe it was due to illness, his haki/soul permanently infused into Shusui, making it a Black Blade, a true Black Blade. And again, because we don't know how Yoru became a Black Blade, it could be the case here where, again, Mihawk wields the blade, but the previous wielder of Yoru, let's say it was a strong swordsman or swordswoman, and then they passed away, and then their soul slash haki infused into Yoru, making it into a black blade. Now this concept I'm not against, but it does get very tricky, because in my mind, Zoro should have 3 black blades. And if you need a very strong swordsman or swordswoman who was the wielder of that sword to pass away, and then their soul slash haki gets infused into the sword, then it becomes, of course, very tricky if Zoro's gonna have 3 black blades, so let's say end of series. So in this situation, when it comes to haki weapons or haki blades, and again, mind you, the haki slash soul component for this upgrade into a black blade only applies to the upgrade itself. Again, the swords themselves do not innately exude haki. Everything will be done for the simple process of upgrading the quality of that weapon. With that being said, instead of, let's say, for example, Ryuma dying and his soul infusing into Shusui, I think it's more likely in the situation where the folks that Ryuma defeated, their haki slash soul was absorbed into the blade, and then at some point there was a haki slash soul threshold, and then the blade could upgrade itself. So for example, Mihawk is defeated, maybe dies by Zoro's hands. Mihawk's haki slash soul gets infused into Wado, and then Wado becomes a black blade permanently at that point in time. Or another way is, let's say, it could be willingly on the part of the very powerful swordsmen. So let's say in the case of Kiku or Denjiro, let's say they die near Zoro, and then their haki slash soul transfers to Zoro's Enma or Wado, some of that sort, and thereby making Wado or Enma into a black blade. This is a very similar concept to the Devil soul. Once a Devil user passes away, the Devil soul transfers into another fruit. So that's the first of the 3 main possibilities. The second one is one based on translation, which is the idea of reforging the sword into being a true black blade. In the Viz translation, Onimaru uses the word forge specifically when it comes to creating a black blade. And there is a master blacksmith in Wano, Tengu Yamahi Tetsu. So this could be a literal meaning, and Zoro has to play a role in the reforging of the blade or blades, say, quote unquote, when the time is right, which could mean Zoro himself is mentally ready, or let's say there's a certain technique that someone has to actually achieve before actually having a black blade. Let's say it's more of like a Zoro feels that, let's say, the sword is ready. He can sense that the sword is ready for upgrade, and then Zoro and Tenguyama begin to refine the blades at an actual forge. And during that process, Zoro helps Tengu Tetsu and incorporates his haki during the forging process time and time again until it finalizes as a true black blade. So that one's a far more simplistic way of doing it. I'm not against it at all. I think it'd be pretty damn dope to see a black blade created in this fashion, especially when it comes to blacksmiths creating katana. The level of skill that someone has to have as a smith to create a katana, especially in the old archaic way of creating a katana, it takes a lot of effort, discipline, skill, focus, and then seeing it in this situation, seeing Zoro and Tengami Tetsu working together to actually forge this masterpiece as the birth of another supreme grade blade comes into existence. I think that would be very dope to see, without question. Now, there are other theories out there, obviously. Like, for example, there are some folks that would say that you need dragon's blood to have a black blade. Ryuma, in this situation, he attained a black blade when he killed a dragon in the lore. Mihawk killed or wounded a dragon in his past, and then Zoro will follow suit with Kaido, oh my god. And then that's how you achieve a black blade. But again, in the one-on-one shot, his sword isn't black, Ryuma number 1. And then number 2, if that was the case, then why didn't Oden get black blades when he cut Kaido? And mind you, there are crazier theories out there compared to the dragon's blood theory. So those other theories, I want to say I'm highly doubtful of. However, there is one theory I think is probably the case here. I think it's actually very likely the case. The real way I think Zoro's going to achieve a TBB is when Zoro's swords awaken, quote unquote awaken. Not necessarily like a Death Awakening, no, but more like achieving the closest bond possible with the blade, to the point where the swordsman could, in theory, converse with their blade. Now, not all the time. Like again, like not like, let's say a Naruto and Kurama relationship, but more of, let's say, a true understanding between the sword and the sword master. The sword becomes something more human in a sense, and through that awakening, the swords transform. Now this one again I think is the most likely possibility on how to achieve a Black Blade, because we've seen evidence of this in the past for various swordsmen, where they kind of treat their swords in a very special way. Mihawk does that, CDU does that, Zoro does that. So in the future, actually, it could be the case where CDU could achieve a Black Blade. Kind of crazy if he does. And in particular, that'll go very nicely if, let's say, CDU is Zoro's final fight and not Mihawk. At this point in time, very doubtful, but until Mihawk is actually going to be there to fight against Zoro at the final hour, there's always going to be that notion where maybe someone defeats Mihawk before Zoro gets Mihawk first. Maybe. That being said, we have to know at key moments in the past when Zoro has sensed his swords in very desperate situations. So for example, against Mr. One, when he sensed his sword under a certain rock, or when Chopper brought the Sonic Atetsu to Zoro when he's still in Chimney Water 7. In these two occasions, Zoro could sense his katana that were nearby even though he couldn't see them. This goes to show you that Zoro has a much deeper bond with his katana, with his swords, compared to other prominent One Piece characters that also use swords. There are also times when Zoro refers to his swords directly as living things. For example, he called the Sandai a problem child. Again, these are things that Mihawk and Zoro have done where they kind of refer to their swords as living things. And then if we go to, let's say, Ryuma, based on Ryuma's lore, it was him and him alone who stood to fight against all the enemies that raided Wano country to steal their gold. If we take that literally, like let's say Oden vs. Ashradoji in several situations many times over, then the only thing that Ryuma would have as, I say, a companion, quote unquote, on the battlefield would be his sword. Instead of the blade becoming an extension of one's body, it becomes an extension of one's soul. And when the blade becomes an extension of one's soul, the blade can achieve awakening. Now, the best way I can describe this is looking at another set of inanimate objects in the world of One Piece that have achieved a version of this soul awakening. And for me, it's the ships of One Piece and the Kalbalter men. The Kalbalter men of One Piece, I think that's how you say that name. The Kalbalter men of One Piece, these ships are inanimate objects that wind up becoming, to a certain degree, sentient. They actually start to feel and think. Mary, like, moved on its own to get there to Enies Lobby. In Skypiea, Usopp could hear and see Mary's Kalbalter men. In Enies Lobby, in Mary's final hour, we all know, everyone there could hear and talk to Mary. The concept of inanimate objects becoming, to a certain degree, sentient does exist in One Piece. The ships are the prima example of that. Take that concept with the ships and apply that to the swords. The difference here, and let's say the reason why the ships, let's say in Whitebeard's Moby Dick, because Whitebeard, when it was going down, he said, "I'm sorry." Almost as if like Whitebeard could see the Moby Dick's Kalbalter men, but we don't see it. But again, we saw Mary's Kalbalter men on several occasions. Even in the episode of Mary, it's there through and through. Thing here is this though, in the case of the ship, it resonates with all the crew members on that ship, meaning that all of the souls and haki, if you would, of the crew have an effect on the ship as an object, I would argue. And then that's how it becomes its own thing, its own sentient soul object. In the case of the swords, it's just the one person. So you can argue in the case of the swordsman or the swords master, they have to have more time to achieve that same level of bond. Zoro so far hasn't achieved that yet. Like, I guess you can say Zoro with Sandai, he had to tame Sandai because he's a problem child. Well, instead of taming Sandai, why not be friends with Sandai? It sounds so much like Naruto Kurama, but it really is similar here. Look, listen! In SBS 92, Oda drew pictures of Wado, Sandai, and Shusui. He personified the swords themselves. Even though it was for fun, for jest, I think the concept is along the same lines as that. So I can see Zoro in, let's say, a very bad spot, and he needs help. I can see something like one of the swords, Wado or Emma saying, hey, you need any help, dude? Or something like, honest to God, something of that sort. Or Zoro's like, I need help, and then he grabs one of the swords, and then he's sucked into some kind of like inner sword world. It sounds crazy, but how it's gonna happen, I think it should happen along those lines. And Zoro, in dire situations, could converse with his sword or swords. And once Zoro can achieve that, I think he will achieve a Black Blade. The closest bond possible with the blade. So that being said, that is my stance on how Zoro can achieve a Black Blade. True TBBs, true Black Blades. But let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. Be sure to rate the video. Not that hard to do. Once again, I guarantee you all, you have a device called Zamaosu. You use Zamaosu to click, rate the video, to click, subscribe, click on that bell to join the squad. Peace out, y'all. Have a nice one. Take care.